We are recording, so thank you for those who are here today to learn a little bit more about our Accelerate pitch competition that we're hosting through the Coalition for Urban Serving Universities, which we call USU, in collaboration with one of the projects that we are working on here that we call UALI, but stands for the Urban Adult Learner Institute. So you will hear in a bit greater detail about how all of these are kind of connected to the initiative we are officially launching today with Accelerate, to think about ways that we can continue to further knowledge at our USU institutions across the country, and think about ways that we can create more successful opportunities and pathways for our adult learners who are at all of our institutions. So to get us started is the purpose of our the pitch competition, which I'll probably call from here on out Accelerate. So Accelerate is really trying to address those challenges that our adult learners are facing in different contexts, but focused on the urban context here with our USU institutions. So we understand that adult learners are have always been at our campuses, but especially now there's a focus on it for institutions as we think about continuing to fill that gap in enrollment that we're expecting to see really here in the next year or so, as 2025 kind of rolls around the corner. But we want to think more than just from that economic perspective of how we fill gaps of students, but really how we make more inclusive and equitable communities for all of our students. Accelerate is aiming to do that with our adult learner population through some of the work that we've done here at USU. That's been focused on the Partnerships for Adult Learner Success grant, which is a generous investment from the Lumina Foundation over the past 3 or so years, where we've been looking at this and identifying ways that we can support our adult learners at campuses. So that is really what we are focused on here with Accelerate, and really thinking about how we can take those research-backed ideas and innovative thinking to really carry this work to the next level and provide some investment in you all to potentially scale, create, and sustain initiatives that are going to support our adult learner population. So our focuses here are, number one, to elevate and advance groundbreaking ideas that support adult learners. So we, with this pitch competition, want you to have a little bit of a reach, thinking about ways that, you might have this idea, might not have the funding to get it off the ground. We want to hear about those ideas for that opportunity to win some prize money, to really get that lifted up at your institution, and think about ways that you can support adult learners in a creative way. Next is emphasizing solutions grounded in research. There's a lot of research out there about adult learners, and has been for a long time, but some of that research hasn't really gotten off the ground to think about ways that we can systemically change institutions, programs, or practices at institutions to really make a difference for our adult learners. So making sure that those ideas are grounded in research or theory or data that can really kind of carry the ideas you all have to the next level. And then finally, of course, providing some investment in those financial resources for our urban universities to be able to sustain and scale initiatives that are centered on the adult learners' experiences. So I've said that a couple of times now, but that is what the focus of this opportunity is to really have some targeted funding for our adult learners in environments where maybe that funding might be a little bit hard to come by. We're giving that opportunity and hoping you'll take advantage and share your ideas with other institutions and us at the Coalition to be able to provide some of that funding to bring new ideas to life. So you may be wondering what it takes to be able to compete in this pitch competition. And there are really two eligibility requirements. The first is that your institution that you're employed at is a USU member. So I talked to a couple folks when they were first coming in. I know that that's the case for them. But if you're not quite sure if your institution is a USU or a Coalition for Urban Serving Universities member, you can head to our website. There is a link that says members, and you can see the 41 institutions that are currently affiliated with us. And that website is usucoalition.org. This is just a snapshot from that website that shows the 41 institutions that are currently a part of us. So that combined with the second eligibility requirement is to also be a part of our Urban Adult Learner Institute. So this is free and open access to any institution, but we will require for any team that decides to put a pitch together for Accelerate to have completed at least one UALI component badge. So you don't have to earn the Adult Learner Advocate badge, which requires you to have 4 of those components completed, but at least one component should be completed. So that blue one there is the type of badge that you would need, but there are 4 different colors. I'll let you explore. I think most people who signed up for today's webinar were a part of UALI already, but I'm happy to go into more details at the end if you still have questions. The reason why that UALI component requirement is there is because we want to make sure that anyone competing within Accelerate has at least a foundational knowledge of what the adult learner's student experience is like, whether that's transitioning to the university, whether that's within the classroom, whether that's identifying career pathways. UALI explores all of those, and we want to make sure that all Accelerate participants have some foundational knowledge of adult learners. So those are the 2 eligibility requirements. Like I said, I'll pause at the end, but if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand virtually. I'm happy to turn it over to you as we go through too. So one of the things I would imagine probably drew you to today's conversation was the opportunity for this investment of $10,000 to be dispersed directly to your office at your institution to bring this idea to life. So this money comes from the grant from the Lumina Foundation that I talked about a little bit earlier, but this is really to help really spur initiatives, spur ideas, and make sure that the research and the work that's been done with our grant really comes to life. That lives through UALI, that lives through the institutions that we're working with, and now that lives through Accelerate, and hopefully building programs and initiatives that can help adult learners over the course of time. So this money will for the winning institution will need to be used directly based on the pitch that was pitched to us. I'm running out of adjectives to use, but for the idea that was pitched to us through Accelerate, and that money is going to be directly dispersed to that USU institution. So what this means is that teams should be formed based on institutions, so that all that money gets directly dispersed just to one. And then making sure, and in your pitch, you'll kind of talk about this a little bit about how that money can be helpful to get your idea and make sure that it's brought to life. So the prize is $10,000. There is just one prize that's given out for this round of Accelerate. So just keeping that in mind as well. We will be giving one award of $10,000. Some of the judging criteria, the things that we'll be looking at over the course of the pitch, and this is what the judges will kind of take into account when they're reviewing the videos, which I'll get to in a moment, as this is a virtual pitch competition. Number one are the innovation of the initiative. Was this a novel idea, what either to your institution, maybe it's to your region, maybe it's to urban institutions, or maybe it's to higher education in general? And really thinking about what's already been done and how this is going to challenge maybe existing systems within your institution or higher education in general. The second is the integration of research. Mentioned that a couple of times. This idea of being research backed is really important to this competition. So making sure you're able to bring in what prior research has said or what it hasn't said, where some gaps exist and where maybe this is going to fill. Feasibility to implement and scale. So in your pitch, you're describing what the process of using potentially this prize money would look like, and how the feasibility would be to make sure that that is something that could be implemented with this seed money or be scaled. So I know a lot of institutions, especially our USU institutions, are working on really innovative things already, but it's really about taking it to the next level. Still, while still thinking about the innovative and creative ways you can do that, really thinking about how you can take that to the next level by scaling it at your institution. And then finally, the potential for positive impact. So thinking about being really clear about the ways that you are sure, based on the knowledge that you've gathered from research, your understanding of your institution, your understanding of the adult learners that attend your institution, how this is going to be helpful and really make an impact for your adult learners across the board. So those are the criteria. Submission guidelines. There are a couple of dates on here, but before even these submission guidelines, of course, the number one piece of this would be making sure that you've registered for UALI and completed one of those components. Then or simultaneously submitting the intent to compete form, which is located on the UALI Google Drive. And a lot of this information is in more detail on our webpage, which just launched this morning at usucoalition.org. So you can certainly follow up there. And of course, this is being recorded. But February 1st is the date that we would like to have any team that's interested in submitting for Accelerate to just let us know. That is non-binding. So if you submit by February 1st and later on down the line, you decide that maybe that isn't going to work or you're not going to be able to compete, totally fine. But we just want to have an idea of the making sure that we have points of contact in case we have to send any information out, and then also just to provide reminders. So we won't spam you or anything, but we just want to make sure that we're able to contact you for any reason as the date approaches to submit that pitch. So the second bullet on there is to create a video of no more than 5 minutes. So it's really up to you to decide how you want that video to look. Of course, taking into consideration the judges' criteria and the things that are important for us to really understand what type of initiative you're pitching. It's sometimes can be a challenge to do that in a limited amount of time. But you know, that's what we're doing here. It is a challenge, and it's a way for you to kind of share your knowledge in a concise way that helps us understand how this is going to support adult learners on your campus. And then finally, that video should be put into a MOV file that will be submitted to the UALI at coalition.org email. And that's due by April 1st, 2024. So I'll have more specific times as we get closer, but you can imagine that that will be by midnight Pacific time on any of these dates are the due dates, because we recognize we have members all over the US. So as long as they're submitted on those dates, you are good to go. So that is the main overview of today. I wanted to make sure, you know, I'm giving for the competition, you have a limited amount of time to share information. So I wanted to make sure to share this in a concise way with you all as well. But I would love to hear if there are any questions or further clarification that I can provide. But if you aren't signed up for UALI, I wanted to make sure to already get you a head start on that first step. If you scan that QR code, it will take you directly to the first page of UALI on our usucoalition.org website. And that's where you'll also find more information about how to submit that intent to compete form. There's a folder on there as well. But overall, the next step is really to think about forming teams or starting to create ideas. And maybe you already have ideas that this funding could potentially be used for. But I will pause here and unshare the screen so I can see folks and see if there are any questions.
I have got a couple that
Okay.
I'm figuring you can probably answer pretty quickly.
Cool.
The first one is, will this PowerPoint be made available with the recording?
Yeah, absolutely. I can absolutely do that. I'll put that as well in the Google Drive. So this will all be housed. I just created a folder for Accelerate, so I'll put it all in there, as well as in the welcome and introduction. There's like a 3-pager on how UALI works. I'll put them in both places, so you'll have access. Yes.
Awesome. Other question is specifically about UALI. I was looking through some things, I think it was yesterday, and it said that everybody on the team has to have the UALI certificate. My question is, what all does that entail? Or what's the time commitment, except to gain that certificate?
Yep, great question. So for the whole certificate, which we call the Adult Learner Advocate badge, you don't necessarily have to do that. That is a little more of a time commitment. That requires you to do 4 modules to earn that. What we're just asking is that you just complete one of the 4 modules, each person on the team, whoever you decide to be on your team. It doesn't have to be the same module, but we'll just have to have earned one component of UALI. If you want to go the extra mile and do all 4, no problem. I would say each component takes roughly about an hour to complete. So just to give you an idea, there are synchronous as well as asynchronous options. So I don't know how long you've signed up for UALI, but periodically, I would say probably every 2 to 3 weeks at the most, you'll get an email. It comes from me, but it's from the UALI at usu.org, usucoalition.org account. That talks about opportunities where we might be hosting live webinars where you can attend those. Or there are some recorded on there already. If you go through the folders, you'll see like there's podcasts and things like that. And there's also a sheet in there that tells you exactly what you need to do to earn that component. It's something that you need to submit usually, because we want you to make sure that you're applying the knowledge that's gained to your campus community. So does that make sense? Any further clarification?
It does. Like I said, the main thing was my concern of just how much time this might take. Do you have any examples or of what kind of projects you guys want to see? Just kind of more of what you're looking for, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. It is really open-ended. I can tell you right now through our grant, we're working with 8 institutions across the country who are USU members, and they're looking at the success of adult learners from many angles. So there's not just one way to do this. Some are focused on advising, some are focused on career counseling, some look at credit for prior learning. Some are looking at partnerships within communities. And I think most notably, maybe not most notably, but the most famous organization that one of our institutions is working with, the University of Memphis is working with FedEx. because that's a community partner that they have. So, this is really open-ended in a lot of ways on purpose, because I don't want to even create kind of this like sandbox for you. I want you to be able to think outside of the box in ways that maybe that's through conversations that you're having with adult learners on your campus or administrators who are working with adult learners. So I think there's a lot of ways to kind of identify this, I think through the literature as well. So I don't have a super specific answer for you, because I think a lot of this competition is really about bringing new ideas that are meaningful to your campus environment, because it's going to be different at Wichita State than it might be at another USU institution in New York, for example. So,
we are affiliated with WSU Tech, which
yep.
is a 2-year versus Wichita State is a 4-year. Does it have to be a 4-year? Can a 2-year apply? Or do they need to be in partnership with the 4-year, or does it matter?
Yeah, so for our to disperse our funds, the funds will only be released to the 4-year institutions that are a part of USU. So are you're at WSU Tech, was that right?
I'm at Wichita State.
Yeah, okay. So in thinking too about the types of partnerships our grant is currently working on, we have institutions working with 2-year institutions, community colleges, so on and so forth. So the funds can just have to be used and dispersed to the 4-year institution, but I think there's absolutely opportunities to think about pathways, because that's a big topic in
right.
adult learner. Yeah, so the money will be dispersed to the institution, but if that's to create better pathways for those transfer processes, that is up to you all to decide if that's how you want to pitch the idea.
So we could have we could apply, and then we could transfer the money to WSU Tech, or would all of that need to be Wichita State would write the check for the bill for accounts payable, etc.
Yes, Wichita State, the 4-year institution, would have to be the person in charge of
fiscal agent.
Correct. Fiscal agent. Yes, there we go. I love that. Thank you. Other questions, comments, thoughts? And I see there is something maybe in the chat, but I couldn't see it when I had full screen. So let me pull that up. I know the record. Yes. Does the research have to be done by your university, or can it be cited? Yep. So research does not have to be just done by your institution. This can be the body of research that's out there, peer-reviewed journals, so on and so forth. So this does not have to have been done by your institution. I think it would be good to think about what the research is saying in context of how your institution operates, and thinking about maybe what the researchers studied in certain articles, if it was a similar type of institution, how your institution might differ. Those might be important things to bring up in your pitch. They also might not be important things. It just depends on how you decide to pitch your initiative. But no, it does not have to be done by your institution. But yes, cited, absolutely. If you mention it in the pitch, and if you send any supplemental documentation, then that would be for like citations. Yes, that would be a great way to ensure that work is recognized. Let's see. Okay. Those are all the questions I see now. I just want to pause for a second, see if anything else came up before we close out today. All right, so I'm not seeing anything. So we will get wrapped up here a little bit early. But if you have any questions moving forward, please feel free to reach out to myself. I can be reached at that uali at usucoalition.org email. I'm happy to answer any questions, or if you're kind of thinking about ideas, I'm more than happy to chat with you in any way that makes sense with the role that I have, or clarify anything as well. But I look forward. I'm so excited be able to see the ideas that are continuing to grow at our really innovative urban institutions around the country. So I look forward to working with you all, and be sure to fill out that intent to compete form. Once you have that team selected, you'll see when you go into the UALI Google Drive, it's a pretty short form to just fill out and just kind of talk about the ideas that you're thinking about. And we'll be in contact shortly after that. But thank you so much, and have a good rest of your day.
Hey, Jimmy, I do have
Yeah.
one more
Yes.
question. I'm sorry.
No problem. Please.
Thinking about if we choose to apply for this, my question is, I get that the 4-year, like Wichita State, has to be the fiscal agent. Totally get that. My question is, though, can the actual application come from the 2-year? Because I think that they might have some opportunities that would be of interest versus what they're doing at their institution, strictly because they are a 2-year and we're more of a 4-year, and we're the 4-year. Can that, or does the application need to come from Wichita State and talk about what we will do with WSU Tech?
Yes.
I know it's kind of a weird question, but
yeah, Jennifer, if you happen to have heard the question, please jump in. I'm going to attempt to answer, but there might be some things on the back end that I might need some help with. But the application should come from the 4-year institution, as well as being the fiscal agent. This has to do a little bit with where the money is coming from with our grant. So the grant is funding our USU institutions. I think it is totally fine to work in conjunction with, if you're working on a partnership type of pitch. If you're going to receive the money, I think it's probably important for you to have some conversations and then also think about how they might inform how the team at the 4-year institution pitches the idea. Because if that money is ultimately going to affect them, I think it would be important for them to be a part of that conversation. Jennifer, I just want to make sure if there's any other things. That was good? Okay. Wonderful. Yeah. So yes, this should be led by the 4-year institution. I think it's totally fine if you're working on something in partnership with, whether it's a community college, a business, whatever it is within your community. I think it's totally fine for them to have some voice in the project. But yes, this is focused on our 4 years.
Okay. I think that gets what I need to know. What I'll do is pass this along, and if there are additional questions, we'll reach out.
Wonderful. Well, it sounds like some idea is brewing, which
possibly.
Yeah, possibly. Cool. Yeah. Well, great. So I'll just pause one more time. I know sometimes when we talk, it spurs other questions. So anything else? Looks like we're good. So like I said, feel free to contact me if anything else comes up, but it was wonderful seeing you, hearing from you all. And I look forward to working with you moving forward. Cool. See ya.